started, yeah. We were going to shoot a video today to explain our solar power in more detail, but a few things have kind of come to a head, and it seemed like a really good opportunity to just shoot interview style, confessional, if you will, chat with us about what's going on, what we're experiencing here on the road. We'll start with the road trip so far at a glance, from start to where we are now.
We started a little bit later than we had planned. We got caught up a little by maybe 4 or 5 days due to our previous job, and it took a little longer to leave than we had thought.
So we initially planned on getting on the road a few days before Thanksgiving. We didn't get on the road until a few days after Thanksgiving. We started in Northern California, close to Lassen National Park, got on the road, heading east across the state of Nevada.
I think we just made it to Reno, Nevada, which is like right across the border.
That's right. Yeah, one of our first days was getting to Reno and taking care of errands that we needed to do in Reno. We went to Patagonia, ran around getting some food, dumping the RV holding tank, getting some water, just the sort of stuff you have to do to get ready for a road trip in the first place. We did a small repair on the RV. We had to fix the exhaust. That took just a little bit of time. And then we met up with our friend Sean, who lives in Reno. And then we continued.
So on day 2, then we headed to the hot springs. Those were really awesome, and we ended up staying there for 2 days because we really liked it. The weather was great. The hot springs were awesome.
The cell phone signal was great, so we were able to get some work done. So we weren't just sitting around in the hot spring for 2 days. We were bouncing back and forth from the RV to the hot spring, doing work, getting in the water.
Yep, I had my a meeting from there and other stuff. So the next day we made it almost to the edge of Nevada and Utah. So that's where we went to the Great Basin National Park, and we took the cave tour and we did a hike, and then that evening we noticed some issues.
The diaphragm went bad in the fuel pump. It was leaking fuel whenever the vehicle was running. Luckily we noticed this. We got towed. One thing we can't recommend enough to anyone who decides to try living in a van or any vehicle: err on the side of caution. We paid a little bit of extra money for extended roadside service through our insurance company, and it already paid off for us. We got a free tow, almost 50 miles, which would have cost like $400 if we had to pay out of pocket. Totally covered by insurance. We didn't have to pay any money for that. We got towed from the border back into Nevada to a great mechanic. They're called Precision Auto. That was in Ely. And they took care of our fuel pump, replaced it for us. Parts and labor all in was less than $200, and we're back up on the road.
Quick light change.
Okay.
So then we were starting out from Nevada, and so we made it to Utah the next day. I had a meeting that morning, and so we found a place to sleep that had decent enough service that I could have my meeting in the morning.
This was just west of Delta, Utah. We drove through Delta to Fruita, which I was confused because I've been to Fruita, but I've been to Fruita, Colorado, and I didn't remember this because it's kind of close to the border of Utah. And so when we got there, I was surprised to find out that it was a historic town in the middle of Capitol Reef National Park, so not an actual place where you could get any kind of food, supplies, gas. None of that existed there. So we parked for the night. The next day, we went for a nice bike ride in the park.
Matt's been on a bunch of bike tours before, but I personally haven't, and so like that was actually one of my first longer bike rides, especially with our new bikes. I've gone on a couple rides in San Francisco and stuff, but that was one of the only, well, that was my first one, definitely in Utah, and one of the only ones we've done that's longer on the new bikes.
So after a day in Capitol Reef, we continued east. We camped right near Goblin Valley State Park for an evening, and the next day we got up early and we drove to Moab, which is where we are now.
Yeah, and it's great here. I mean, it's beautiful. If you've never been to Moab, it's an amazing desert location. There's incredible spires all around. Take a turn to the left and you'll just find some amazing unexplored free camping or really inexpensive boondocking options. Moab, the town itself, is really cute. There's a co-op.
Yeah, the Moonflower Co-op, awesome natural grocery store. They also have a cafe with free Wi-Fi and hot food that's prepared. So if you're ever in Moab and looking for a place to kill some time, that's an awesome spot to go to and do some work.
And then you're within spitting distance of like Arches National Park and Canyonlands and so many other amazing places. And so we were planning on staying here probably for a couple days. We even mentioned like maybe a week.
Yeah, and Moab is really the desert. It usually cools off significantly at night in the desert. Just as we got here, a cold front moved in, and the temperatures during the day have been tolerable in the sun. They've been maybe in the 40s, and at night it was in the teens last night. This morning at about, I think, 9 o'clock when we looked at the thermometer, it was 19 degrees outside. So that was unexpected, and we're kind of wusses when it comes to the cold. So last night was our first really cold night here.
We have plenty of blankets in here, so like we've been using my sleeping bag quilt to help keep us even warmer. So we were pretty warm with like some layers on last night, but we also decided that would be a good idea to get one of those little propane heaters. So we bought one of those little buddy heaters, used that last night and this morning just to kind of cut the chill in the air.
Exactly. That was great. It really helps in the morning. Even though we had the heater that takes care of the comfort inside, but one thing it doesn't do is it doesn't ensure that your pipes don't freeze if it gets below freezing outside. All of our plumbing is interior, inside where we're insulated, except our on-demand hot water heater. It's in a separate outside compartment that's vented because it has a flame in it. And the heat exchanger pipes in that froze and burst last night.
Yeah, so we'd taken the fuse out of the water pump. We thought that might be a good precaution, and we put it back in, and like the hot water heater is just dripping out, pouring out water from places it definitely should not be doing. We messed up.